a Noble Media Group member.
The world is very different now, for man holds in his mortal hands the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life.
6,000 years ago, man invented the wheel. 5,000 years later, he invented the printing press. 460 years later, he would fly. 70 years later, he would step on the moon. And 8 years later, he would send a spacecraft beyond our solar system. Today, we have computers which can think for themselves and robots that can dance. Properly utilized, today's technologies can bring an end to poverty, hunger, and even the need to work, or to make bombs that will end all life on Earth. Will we destroy ourselves or come together?
It is now 85 seconds to midnight. This is the closest the world has ever been to midnight.
Join Joe Carvin as he explores these questions, because mankind is on the hinge of history. It's our first live broadcast.
I'm looking forward to it. And if you give me a couple of minutes, I'd love to lay the groundwork and foundation so our viewers can understand how fundamentally different the world we're living into today is from the world we've experienced over the last 2 millennia. Can I take a crack at that?
Yes, please do.
Look, no one should have any doubt that we're living at the most consequential time in human history, and that the decisions we make over the next 5 to 10 years will impact human civilization for the next 2 millennia to come. Have no doubt humanity is at a crossroads. One thing I would share with you at the outset of this show is my dad always encouraged me to look at our national and global thought leaders and determine who's credible. I therefore like to quote credible thought leaders I've been following and admire. One global thought leader I find very credible is Britain's former astronomer royal, Sir Martin Rees, who also served as president of the Royal Society of Science, a post previously held by Sir Isaac Newton. In 2003, Sir Martin Rees wrote a book called Our Final Century, where he wrote, "It may not be absurd hyperbole to assert that the most crucial location in space and time, apart from the Big Bang itself, could be here and now. Our choices and actions could ensure the perpetual future, not just life on Earth, but far beyond it too. Or in contrast, through malign intent or misadventure, 21st century technology could jeopardize life's potential for closing its human and post-human future. Whatever happens here on Earth in this century could conceivably make the difference between a near eternity filled with the ever more complex and subtle forms of life and one filled with nothing but base matter." So, Brian, here we have the top global thought leaders telling us that we're living at the most important time since the Big Bang. The question I have, and I think we should all ask ourselves, okay, as we enter into the third millennia, how do we come into this third millennia? Another thought leader I really admire, E.O. Wilson, the Harvard biologist, came up with a great term that I think really describes who we are and where we are. He said we've hurtled into the 21st century with a bizarre combination of Stone Age emotions, medieval beliefs, and godlike technology. He concludes that humanity is an evolutionary chimera, a patchwork of traits from different eras that don't fully align. Our emotions, fear, aggression, love, evolved during the Stone Age era, hardwired for survival in a hunter-gatherer world. Our institutions, like governments and religions, carry the rigid, hierarchical baggage of medieval times. Meanwhile, our technology is godlike, capable of reshaping the planet and Earth. Wilson concluded this is a terrifically dangerous way to enter in this time. So the goal of this podcast is to help us and humanity build a wisdom commensurate with our technological prowess. In his book, The Pale Blue Dot, Carl Sagan explained that while science and technology have contributed to the many and very real challenges facing us today, the central problem is that humanity has not yet built up a wisdom commensurate with our technology. And that, Brian, is the purpose of this podcast. Help you and me together build the wisdom that helps us increase the chances of using technology to successfully transition to a solved world of sustainable superabundance we now see in front of us. What do you think, Bryden? Can we build that wisdom together?
Well, we're going to try it. I think there's a whole lot of questions about it. I think that as you and I have talked offline before, it's a humongous change for the entire planet. I don't care who you are. It's going to be a change. It's going to change all of us. And is it going to be a positive change or not? I guess one of my questions back to you would be, if you could, just briefly, what is the Hinge of History? Why was it called? Did we call this program the Hinge of History?
Thank you. In fact, there's another British philosopher, Derek Parfit, who ultimately came up with the phrase, and the way he basically said, we live during the hinge of history. Given the scientific and technological discoveries of the last 2 centuries, the world has never changed as fast. We shall soon have greater powers to transform not only our surroundings, but ourselves and our successors. He said, if we act wisely, in the next few centuries, humanity will survive its most dangerous and decisive period. That's the period we're in. Our descendants could, if necessary, go elsewhere, spreading through the galaxy. Now, he talked about centuries. I think it's a matter of decades right now. I think we're ultimately, the pace of change accelerated since he first wrote that in 2011. And I think ultimately that's why the hinge of history. I thought it's a great term. Humanity as a crossroads is perhaps easier to understand. But the decisions each of the co-creators, the 8.3 billion co-creators of the universe decide to make will determine our future. Those of us alive today will determine the future for millennia to come.
Incredible. I know we've kind of planned some of this stuff out. I'm going to put down another slide. 15 years later, superabundance is our reality. What is superabundance? Explain kind of what our reality is today and where we're going with this, if you could.
100%. So I call sustainable superabundance is a solved world of high universal income where we bring an end to poverty, hunger, disease, and the need to work. So ultimately, technology, so I've written a book called The Great Transition to Sustainable Superabundance. And I truly believe this superabundance is technologically feasible. In fact, since I was confident that was the case when I wrote the book, and everything that's happened the year since I wrote the book has convinced me further and further. It's a reality. Our reality right now is superabundance. Get ready, it's superabundance. Throw out your economic textbooks, throw out, which for 2 millennia have talked about scarcity mindset. We need to overcome that scarcity mindset, create a renaissance mindset that embraces the technology for all humanity and brings an end to poverty, hunger, disease, and even the need to work.
So how does AI do that? I mean, it's honestly,
Well, great question. Well, it's AI plus robots. I think we'll probably hear from Elon maybe later in this broadcast, if not in a future broadcast. But he talks about in 10 to 20 years, AI plus robots will bring an end to the need to work and will bring an end to poverty. How does that happen? Well, again, just go on your favorite LLM, right? Yeah, and generative AI, be it ChatGPT, I like Grok, whatever it is, XAI. They're infinitely smarter than us. The only difference is we have to prompt to create that intelligence. But just think about how that intelligence is going to evolve in the next 5 years. Now, the big question I've always had is, where are you going to put that intelligence? They're going to put it in robots. Now imagine you have a robot as nimble, in fact, far more nimble than a human being, because the technology is going to get better and better. Imagine 10 years out, you're going to have robots infinitely smarter than you doing all the work. So Elon's predicting, and everybody's predicting, that in 10 to 15 years' time, we'll have more robots than human beings, and they'll be able to do all the work for everybody. So we're going to live in a world of infinite economy. Yep.
Let's go ahead and let's play that video, if that's okay, of Elon,
Sure.
if that's all right. Let everybody listen to it here.
Say, like, in the long term, where will things end up? Long term, I don't know what long term is. Maybe it's 10, 20 years, something like that. For me, that's long term. My prediction is that work will be optional.
Optional.
Optional. So
We'll take that.
yeah, I mean, it'll be like playing sports or a video game or something like that. If you want to work, in the same way, like you can go to the store and just buy some vegetables, or you could grow vegetables in your backyard. It's much harder to grow vegetables in your backyard, but some people still do it because they like growing vegetables. That will be what work is like, optional. It's kind of interesting. And my guess is, if you go out long enough, assuming there's a continued improvement in AI and robotics, which seems likely, the money will stop being relevant at some point in the future. Currency becomes irrelevant. But AI and humanoid robots will actually eliminate poverty. And Tesla won't be the only one that makes them. I think Tesla will pioneer this, but there will be many other companies that make humanoid robots. But there is only basically one way to make everyone wealthy, and that is AI and robotics.
So I think he pretty much says exactly what you were saying. In his vision of a world of superabundance, you would have artificial intelligence and robots, and it's amazing. I've got to tell you, the potential, as you would say, for superabundance is there, right? So
100%.
and Elon is quite the visionary. I think he believes in it. He's certainly put a substantial amount of his finances into it. This is I don't know, Joe. I think this could be the beginning of maybe one of the greatest changes in mankind.
No, the greatest. No, there's no maybe about it. There's no maybe about it. In fact, actually, what's really interesting, so Elon talks about AI and robots, but ultimately, we haven't talked yet about quantum computing. And quantum computers can do in minutes what it takes today's top supercomputers billions of years to calculate. So the big challenge with quantum computing is the error rate. But I just did an analysis, and ultimately, if you were going to try and reduce the error rate, would you use AI? Of course.
Right,
So
right.
top scientists amplifying their intelligence. And then in addition to that, so basically what's happening now, and if you saw, the US federal government just invested $2 billion in quantum computing companies last week. IBM just got $1 billion in quantum computing. So they're going to accelerate. So ultimately what's happening now is quantum computing error rate and ready for prime time in the real world is not supposed to be ready till the mid 2030s. It's now 2029. When you had a millionfold increase in AI compute with dramatic advances in robotic technology and quantum, it's guaranteed. You have to take the Joe Carvin guarantee. That world of abundance is here. It's ready for prime time. It's ready to go. In fact, we need to start talking about the infinity economy.
Okay.
We put that the infinity economy. Throw out the textbooks, every classical capitalism and Marxism. Throw them both out, because everything was predicated on a world of scarcity. Economics is the study of the distribution of scarce resources. Throw out those economic texts. We no longer live in a world of scarcity. That's the mindset. We need the Renaissance mindset. We need to overcome 2,000 years of change, right?
Right.
Ultimately, technology, since the scientific industrial revolution, the pace of technological change has accelerated at a faster and faster rate. One of our talks like next week's gonna be on exponential change, but we're in the knee of the curve. The fastest point of change in history, we need to get ready for it. You cannot understand today's world without understanding exponential change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, are there any concerns that you have? With this,
Yes,
because
yes,
I don't know.
yes.
If you got robots running around that are smarter than people, visions of what was it, the Terminators or whatever
Yep,
comes to
yep.
mind, right?
So look, there's enormous concern. Look, even like Elon, Jeffrey Hinton, the top futurists, say there's a 15 to 20% probability that AI just get rid of us. In the same way you get rid of ants, they get rid of us.
Hmm.
That's a 15 to 20% probability of existential risk. It's there. And what we've been talking about so far is the positive probability, the 80, 85%, where you're bringing into poverty, hunger, disease, and the need to work. But again, there's a whole negative side to this. In fact, I think we're going to talk about the doomsday clock and ultimately the risk to humanity. And if we look at the doomsday clock that was created by Oppenheimer and Einstein and the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, I mentioned Sir Martin Rees's book written in 2003. At that time, the doomsday clock was 5 to 6 minutes away from doomsday They're now measured in seconds. We now 85 seconds away to self-extermination because the extermination risks are multiplying. Now you have AI, you have climate change, and all you do is need to turn on the evening news to know about nuclear proliferation
Right.
and those risks. And so, in fact, one of the scariest things I ever saw was an article by Charles Krauthammer. And again, we're going to support all these podcasts with our website and information. And he wrote a article, about talking about the Fermi paradox. And ultimately, the Fermi paradox is Enrique Fermi is a famous scientist. And he came back to lunch one day. He said, "Wait a second, where's everybody? If the universe is 13.8 billion years old, it should be teeming with life. How is it we've never ever come across a life form?" And ultimately, what he concluded is that maybe there's a great filter out there. It's called the great filter theory. That great filter prevents, as societies advance in technological capability, what do? Rather than become spacefaring civilizations, they destroy themselves.
Well, you know what? Let's play that video real quick so people that know
Great.
what the doomsday clock is and kind of where we're at as a,
Fantastic. Thank you.
let's do that.
Doomsday clock is a
Yep.
tool for communicating how close we are to destroying the world with technologies of our own making. The risks we face from nuclear weapons, climate change, and disruptive technologies are all growing. Every second counts, and we are running out of time. It is a hard truth, but this is our reality. It is now 85 seconds to midnight. This is the closest the world has ever been to midnight.
Okay, so we are now officially at the closest to midnight we have ever been since the day that they started the clock. It's not just AI, it's climate change, nuclear proliferation, exactly as you were saying just a little bit earlier. I guess my question is how will AI work into this? Are we going to be able to use it for the positive of mankind? Can mankind do that? We don't have a really good record over the last couple of hundred years about getting along with each other. So, what's your thoughts there, Joe? I don't want to focus on the negatives. I think we want to stay on the positives for the most part. But the reality is there is some negatives to it. There is
It's
the
huge negative,
potential.
huge negatives. And look, well, I mentioned Sir Martin Rees in his book in 2003. He concluded humanity's chances of reaching the year 2100 were 50-50. Not very promising.
Right.
Now, and has the world gotten closer together since 2003 or for them all apart? Now, look, I'm a huge optimist. I clearly the most important bilateral relationship is China and the U.S. And I'm thrilled that Trump went to China and they had a conversation. President Xi's going to come back to the U.S. and there are going to be 4 meetings over the course of the year. I think they recognize it. I think they understand. But there's huge conversations that need to be, like you say, robots, soldier robots. Why not?
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, they
you
are.
talk,
Yeah.
and then you talk about the conversation between Anthropic and the U.S. Department of Defense, right? Are you going to have anybody, human beings, in the kill loop?
Right. Right. So explain that to people because they may not understand what happened there. And I know it really, really alarmed you when this
Yeah.
happened. So explain to the folks that are watching this what that means. There's nobody in the kill loop.
And I'm gonna argue that both were right. So in other words, the U.S. Department of Defense is trying to protect the United States.
Hmm.
And they need to be able to respond to any kind of attack as quickly as possible. So they want to respond as quickly as possible. Anthropic was saying, look, okay, you can respond as quickly as possible, but you need a human in the loop. We need you to put it, some human being has to be participating in that decision. And the U.S. Department said, what am I going to, Dario Amade is the head of Anthropic. Dario, am I going to call you up and ask for permission? So in all honesty, both were right. And this is where China and the U.S. have to come together. Both are dramatic using AI to prepare for war. And it's great. Look what happened in Venezuela. They're using AI in Iran right now. We really are creating increased potential to wage war. And if we don't want to end up in the great filter, on the wrong side of the great filter, we've got to really urgently find ways to bring humanity together. In fact, Brian, I don't know if did you see that the Pope weighed in on all this?
I did. Yeah. First American
Wow,
Pope. Yeah.
finally, yes. See, this is look. Our whole point is we needed. People think I'm an optimist, but none of this is guaranteed.
Yeah.
None of this is guaranteed. We have the general consensus. So one of the top VC people in California, Vinod Kosa, says 5-year-olds will never have to look for a job. They'll never have to look for a job, hopefully because we have superabundance rather because we destroyed ourselves. But are both equally probable.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, everybody thinks the next 10 years are going to be extreme disruption. And we had what this show was all about, living at the hinge of history. We're on a knife edge. We need to urgently address the technology tsunami coming our way to mitigate the challenges and overcome the existential risk. That's what we need to do. And that's why what we're doing is so urgent. That's why I'm convinced the next 5 to 10 years are going to be the most consequential in human history without fail. In fact, that's why Trump invested $2 billion in the quantum computing. Because if you get quantum computing, there's no protection against that. Your bank accounts will be pilfered.
Yeah.
So it's 3 years away, but all of these technologies have superpowers.
Yeah. And it's interesting too because Senator Ben Sass, I don't know if you know who he is, but so he is, the folks that don't know, he was a Nebraska senator, and he's a historian, as a matter of fact. That's his doctorate is in history, and he was talking about. I watched a video interview with him, and we don't have that. Maybe we can show that a little piece of that this next time, Joe. But he talked about how much the world is going to be changing with AI, and we've lived in a world for all of our lives for thousands of years to where you go and you learn a job and you work that job and you can die working that job. You'll have it for most of your life. He said with the changes in AI and the things that robotics or AI can do, he said it's the new norm is going to be, you work for a job for 5, 8, 10 years, and then you've got to go back to school to learn something new, and then go back to, another 8 to 5 years, 10 years to go back to something new. And, he's was optimistic about it like you are, but he was also concerned in trying to brace and get the country and the world to come together and say, okay, this is the new reality. How do we address it? Because this is serious. It's going to happen regardless. How do we address this as a country? But it was a really good interview. So maybe we will try to bring that up
I love
sometime
to,
next
in
time.
fact, he's been at the forefront of this conversation. I will say, we've all, one of the things I do is a K-12 educational enrichment program called One World Future Ready. And on our website, there's a fantastic article from Thomas Friedman. And Ben Sass is 1000% correct. The old learn work model, where you go to Harvard and have a career for 40, that's gone.
Yeah.
Learn work, learn work, learn work. And you have to build your future value every day. And the number one skill set employers are looking for, curiosity and growth mindset. You need to teach yourself. So use that technology. And the other really important point we try and communicate, AI is not going to take your job. Someone who knows how to use AI is going to take your job.
Yeah.
And if you use it right, it can amplify your intelligence by 40 or 50 IQ points without doubt.
Yeah. No, and I think you've got a good point. There was another gentleman. He's a congressman. I don't have his permission to use his name, but a Republican congressman, and that's what he does. And he said, the future for a lot of these people and these businesses, isn't that they just go in there and start AI. It's going to be the contractors that say, I know how to come into your business and put AI in there and put the systems in to make you substantially more productive and financially sound. So, but to your point, that's he said exactly the same thing.
And can I just actually make
Yeah,
we work with a school district, Clarkstown School District. They've adopted our Future Ready program. And they did exactly what you're doing. So they're teaching their kids AI, right? juniors and seniors in high schools, and send them out into local municipality and local business to make it more make it efficient. So this is what we need. We need thinking outside the box. We have a program called Communities 2050. We want to bring the municipality, the school system, the Chamber of Commerce, businesses, not-for-profits together and come up with a vision for 2050. Everybody needs an AI strategy. How are we going to create an AI strategy for a community? Clarkstown and the superintendent, Mark Bacchio, Dr. Mark, done a fantastic job of preparing his kids and reaching out to the community.
We've only got a couple of minutes left here,
Yep.
Joe. Let me ask you, so for those that are watching, what are we going to be doing over the next many episodes? What can people look forward to in watching this and that
Right.
are following our program?
So we're going to set the foundation. First of all, you cannot understand our world today without understanding exponential change. So we're definitely going to ground the next several lessons, your understanding of exponential change. Second, there's no better window to the future than the stock market. Goldman Sachs just completed a study, and this AI world is being built. Wall Street's all in. Goldman Sachs just came out with a study, $7 trillion, trillion with the T, are going to be invested in building this AI superstructure. Get on board, get ready. We're going to have nothing but fun. Take a look at the stock market, take a look at the world around you. Let's build this world of super abundance. Let's have some fun while we still can.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. If you could, please subscribe to our channel. If you're watching this right now, you're, of course, watching it on YouTube. We will be broadcasting to every social media organization out there in the very, very near future. But click subscribe if you like it. Press like. If you've got some questions, leave some questions for us. Joe and I would love to answer it and talk about it a little bit. And we will do that on air. So, thank you for joining us. Thanks, Joe. We're looking forward to this, and we will be back on. I believe it is next Monday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And we're gonna continue to do this and try to. It's completely non-political, unlike some of our other programs, but nonpartisan. So this is an educational program to talk about AI and other things that are connected to it, and try to build some understanding for folks. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We will see you again starting this next Monday. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
You've
Thanks,
been
Brian.
watching Joe Carvin's Hinge of History. The No Bull Media Group is available on all major social media platforms. Make sure to give us a follow where you can watch this show and many others.
A No Bull Media Group member.